everyone. Sorry to disappoint you. We've got this incredible session that we're doing tonight, which is going to be a game changer for you. Game changer. Who's ever seen one of those like optical illusions before, where they show you a photo and then you like, oh, what do you see? I see a rabbit, right? And then it's like, actually, there's a woman's face there. And you're like, oh, fuck, I didn't see that. But now I've seen it. I can't unsee it. Who's ever had one of those moments before? Yep. Tonight's going to be quite similar for you with regards to your coaching journey, because once you understand what I'm about to share with you, it's going to make a massive shift for you in the way you think about coaching. It's going to be a transformational shift for you. You'll never be able to see it again in a different way. And that's really powerful. Einstein said it better than I ever could. He said that a mind that's being expanded will never contract to its old way of thinking again. A mind that's been expanded will never contract to its old way of thinking again. So very excited to shake you through that. Then, of course, on Thursday or Wednesday night for you guys, Thursday for me, we've got our Q&A session. So make sure you bring all your questions to the table. Thursday for me, Wednesday for you is a great session in that I don't pre-prepare anything. I just show up. And so if it's a great call, that's on you. But if it's a shit call, that's also on you because you didn't bring any good questions to the table. So no pressure. But the entire call rests on how well prepared you all are, okay? I'm not a magician, right? I can only do so much. So excited about that. Then we've got, obviously, this time next week, a huge session, which is our business session. We're going to show you how to be able to make $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 a month using coaching and the tools that you're learning here, which is going to be incredible. And then this time, Wednesday, graduation. So it's going to disappear like that. Anyone ever go on a road trip as a kid? And the way there always felt longer than the way back. The way back always felt shorter. Who can appreciate that? You remember that as a kid? Yeah. This is much like this part. We're halfway now. We're over halfway. So we've got 4 calls left, but they will disappear effectively in 10 days from now. In 10 days, you'll have graduated, which will be absolutely incredible. And we'll be able to do that for you live on the final call. So it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. Let me know in the chat, out of everything we've shared with you so far, 4 calls in, 2 week 1, 2 week 2, obviously. Let me know what's been your biggest takeaway, your best thing, your biggest insight, realization, awareness point. Let me know in the chat. Let me know what you've taken away so far. Yep, SOAR coaching model from last week's a big one, right? The wild methodology, the models. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Yeah, there's some great systems, right? And look, the right technique, the right structure does 80% of the heavy lifting for you. So that's really powerful. I'm glad you got a lot out of those sessions. Incredible. Incredible. Awesome. Okay. So let's dive into today's session because we have a huge amount to cover and we've only got a little bit of time to cover off on some cool stuff. So I'm going to go through the slides for you. Let me bring them up 1 second. Okay, here we go. So today we've got the 7 levels of human transformation. Then we've got our Q&A session and then business, of course, and then we're going to dive into your graduation and the 7 steps to wild success. Okay. Now, there's a lot in this session that we're going to unpack, and we're going to go in a couple of different directions. And every time I teach it, it's slightly different depending on where we find the questions come from you guys. So I want this to be as interactive as we possibly can be in the chat. There's a lot that I want us to unpack together here as well. But we're going to talk today about why not all transformation works. You know, when you look at someone that achieves success in this industry, as opposed to someone that doesn't, what's the differences that make the difference, right? You know, if you could generalize the sort of the key distinctions that allow some people to be successful. And when I say successful, I don't just mean to make a heap of money, but I mean that when you have a coaching session or a breakthrough session or a therapy session, whatever you want to label it as, when you have that session, how does some coaching sessions make a difference that lasts the test of time? And why do some sessions feel like they have a very short expiry date on them, right? Like they sort of disappear. How do you go about changing somebody's life forever? And, you know, we want to try and make the biggest impact possible. And the biggest impact possible is the impact that's going to last the longest, right? Because obviously life compounds. We're going to take you through the 7 levels of change and transformation. Now, in the world of NLP and coaching, back from the OG days, this is what we would call the logical levels of change. Today, we call it the 7 levels of human transformation. And effectively, it's a slight deviation to those same principles, but very much the same stuff. We're going to talk to you, how do you go about blending coaching and NLP for rapid results? We're going to take you through some of the powerhouse tools and techniques that'll make a big difference into somebody's life. I want to try to give you, I guess, some of the cheat codes here to go, hey, let's write this down, by the way. This is a key principle for us today. Don't major in minor things. Don't major in minor things. Yeah, and that's both true in terms of what you learn, but it's also true as well of the work that you do with clients. If I'm having a coaching session with Natasha, we only have maybe an hour together, and there's a lot that we could talk about in that hour. But let's not major in minor things. Let's not add a tremendous amount to the agenda and the schedule of that hour session that really doesn't fucking matter, right? Like, there's a limited amount of time that we have with a client to make a difference. We want to make sure that whatever difference we make is really pointed at the area of life that's going to have the greatest return on investment, the greatest return on time, right? Hands, if you're picking up what I'm putting down. Now, by the way, this is important, right? Who's ever heard of Stephen Covey's not cash flow quadrants, but who's ever heard of the Stephen Covey's 4 quadrants, right? Important and urgent, important but not urgent, urgent but not important and not urgent. Who's heard of those things before? Yeah. Who's never heard of those, by the way? Yes or no in the chat? Yeah, it's the Eisenhower window matrix as well, called by a couple of different names. So basically, if you've never heard of it before, just think about it like this. There's a great quote. I want you to write it down. If you don't put your priorities in your schedule, somebody else will put their priorities in your schedule. So we've got to make sure we are intentional. We're allocating the time, energy, and effort to things that matter in our lives. Because what happens is this. We have been trained from a cultural perspective to associate urgency with importance. We've been trained from a cultural perspective to associate urgency with importance, right? Like breaking news. Oh, that must be important. No, it just might be also timely. It might be really irrelevant, but it might be timely. And so just because something is urgent doesn't mean that it's important. And sometimes things that are important are not urgent, right? It might be really important, but it might not be happening until tomorrow. But there might be something that's happening right now today that's really not that significant. Unfortunately, if we are not really clear and deliberate and have a sense of a compelling vision of what we want our lives to be about, we'll spend our time doing a lot of urgent things that we think are important because they often come delivered with stress and anxiety from other people, right? It's like it's important and urgent for that person, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's important and urgent for you. Part of the job for you as a leader is to differentiate between that which is important and that which is urgent, because sometimes there are things that are urgent and important. We're going to make sure that we differentiate those things. Hansi, picking up what I'm putting down. Amazing. So we're going to go through that today because ultimately you could work on a lot of different things with a lot of different people, but that doesn't mean to say it's going to make the biggest impact. And so we've got to have a sense of wisdom and awareness and a sense of appreciation for what's the bigger picture that we're actually working towards, because you can't do it all. Well, you can, but not all in one session, right? So there's a lot that we're going to unpack today. Today is going to be one of those sessions, by the way, that you think about for days, weeks, months, or even years to come, where you're going to keep coming back to it in new levels of awareness and information. So who's ever learned something before and you've reflected back on it years later and go, wow, I didn't fully realize all the significance of that until I got deeper into the game. And then I realized, actually, wow, there was some real power in that. Who's had moments like that before? It's much like watching a Disney movie, right? As a child, you go, wow, I love those characters. And then as an adult, you're like, fuck, there's a lot in this, man. There's a lot in this, right? There's layers and depth to that, right? Onions have layers. Cakes also have layers, depending on which metaphor you want to pick up from Shrek. You can tell we've been watching Shrek in our household, right? That'll make sense. So we're going to cover all of those things for you today. But before we dive into that, I have a very special announcement that I want to make for you all. When I was 2012, so I'm 22 years old. Take your mind back, ladies and gentlemen, to 22, right? This is, for some of you, this is before the invention of the telephone, the internet, the TV, right? Back when we used to have telephones connected to the walls in our houses and everyone could listen on the same landline. Remember that? Remember trying to speak to your boyfriend or girlfriend and knowing that your little brother or sister or your mom or dad at any moment in time could pick up the phone when you were just in the middle of the dialogue, right? Different world, right? Actually, 2022 or 2012 wasn't that long ago, to be fair. I'm showing my age. But nonetheless, 2012, picture this. I'm meant to be studying for my very final exam at university. If I pass the exam, I graduate. If I fail the exam, I'm getting held back by a year. Such was my confidence, maybe arrogance, that I was like, fuck, I don't really need to study, right? I got this. And so instead, what am I doing? I'm procrastinating. Who's ever been guilty of procrastinating, right? Where you're just busy being busy and not doing the stuff you need to fucking do. Well, anyway, I'm checking my emails. By the way, I'm 22. I don't even have any fucking emails, right? Just spam, but you feel significant, right? I've checked my emails and I see this email pop up from a guy called Chris Howard, an American guy. one of the world leaders at the time in coaching, hypnotherapy, personal transformation, NLP, really amazing guy. And he was advertising this webinar. And this was a webinar about personal transformation. It was about learning life coaching and NLP and professional speaking and human transformation and the ability to change people's lives and build a business doing this stuff. And I was like, fuck, this is incredible. This is exactly what I want to do. So rather than studying for my exam, what am I doing? I'm watching this webinar. And I watched this webinar and he does this presentation, keeping in mind, I've never met this guy before, right? I'd only heard about him passively through knowing of other people in the industry. And someone had said to me, hey, you should check out this guy, Chris. And I was like, okay. So I joined his email list. And anyway, I find myself watching this webinar. And he presents this opportunity to apply to speak to his team about becoming a transformational leader and a certified coach. And I was like, fuck, this sounds amazing. And then he tells me that the whole package is worth all this money. And it was $9,000 and a bit USD. And I was like, fuck, I don't have any money, right? Like keeping in mind at this time, I'm 22, I'm at university, so I'm not making really any money. The most I'd ever made in a single year was $13,000 at this point, in a whole year. And he wants $9,000 for this course. He said, look, apply and we'll figure it out. And I was like, fuck, you know what? If there's even half a chance that I can somehow manage to find a way to make a win-win out of this and to turn this around, this is the next step for me. Like I knew I didn't want to do corporate investment finance or investment banking. I knew I wanted to do this work and this was an opportunity, but I was building a non-profit organization. I had 120 volunteer staff. I dedicated my entire time to sort of making a difference. I was doing aid and charity work in Africa in the middle of Australia. And so financially, I wasn't where I wanted to be, but certainly I had a huge desire. And so sure enough, I click on this fucking button and I book a call. And then I'm meant to speak to his team, but I actually end up speaking to him directly. And in a conversation that we then have over the course of the next, what was 30, 45 minutes, he shares something to me that changed my life. He said, Cal, he says, I believe in what you're sharing. He says, I believe in what you're bringing to the table. I believe in the energy and the passion that you have. He says, you remind me a bit about where I was when I was your age. He said, I'm not going to give you a handout, but I'm going to give you a hand up. I want you to write that down. I'm not going to give you a handout, but I'm going to give you a hand up. And we negotiated for me to pay not the full $9,000, but we agreed for me to make an investment to be able to make it happen. And that actually meant that I moved to another country and I worked for free for 6 months for the guy, 7 days a week to sort of earn my craft, right? And this was fucking mental. Can you imagine me telling my mom, I just done this call with this guy I never met before, but I'm going to move to another country and work and live with him for free for 6 months, right? She knows shit. She said, what if he's a serial killer? I was like, Mom, I don't think he is. But if he is, I'll run. I'll run real fast, right? And sure enough, about a month later, I packed my bags and I headed overseas. And so 2013, I move overseas. I give up everything that I got here in Australia. I move overseas on a hope and a fucking prayer to go, hey, this could be a tremendous fucking disappointment, but it also could be an opportunity that you never get ever again in life. And I'd rather be the sort of person that says yes to that and then always had a great story either way than the sort of person that said no, because when you argue for your limitations, you get to keep them. And sure enough, I go overseas, I go to work for him. What I don't realize at the time is he's lost everything. So Chris had a reputation. He was worth at one point $100 million. Huge, right? He'd lost everything. And so effectively I show expecting a whole team and it's just me and him. There's no one else. And so I get promoted very senior role in the company, right? Which is like fucking head of everything right away. But that opportunity created a catalyst that led to everything else in my life, right? I got a great quote. It's a funny one. It's not from like Lincoln or someone intelligent. I don't know even who said it, but it's like, if you hang around the barbershop long enough, you get a haircut, right? Think about that. You hang around the barbershop long enough, you're going to get a haircut, right? And I'm a big believer that 80% of success is just showing up, is putting yourself in a position to have something magical happen. And that's what I did. I did that by applying and booking the call. I did that by having the dialogue. I did that by speaking what I desired. I did that by all the things I'm talking about. And here we are today. Yeah, David, spot on. It's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared, right? And the rest is history. And so part of the agreement that I made with Chris in 2012, November 2012, was that when I was ever in a position to be able to do that for somebody else, that I would pay it forward. right? That I wouldn't give people a handout, but I would give people a hand up. Now, this program that you're all doing with us now is effectively a handout, right? It is an opportunity where you don't have to pay anything at all. But we have an incredible program that we do, which is our Masters of Coaching. In fair transparency, it's a bit more than $9,000. It's about $19,000, but you'll hear a bit more about how we structure and how we support you in that, where it becomes a bit of a win-win for you in being able to do it. And so I wanted to take a moment for you all up front and just let you know two things. Number one is that today, like right now, we're opening up applications for that program. Much like I had the opportunity to in 2012 apply to speak to the team, you have an opportunity to do that right now as well. And we would love to work with you and support you in taking your education and your journey with us here at Wild Success to the next level. And also, much like there was an opportunity for me with Chris back in 2012, obviously we have an amazing financial package. And even if you were to pay the full $19,000, it'd be worth every penny and then some. But we do a scholarship fund. My wife and I have been very fortunate, very blessed economically to be in a position where we get to have this incredible life, and we want to be able to pay that forward. And so it's not free. I want to be very clear about that, but we cover the vast majority. Over 80% of your scholarship costs is covered by myself, my wife, and our team on your behalf to help and support you in the journey. But you can appreciate that we don't have the space to be able to do that for everybody, right? So typically when we're doing these programs, we'll get somewhere around about 500 to 700 applications a month just in the coaching program. And we accept normally about 90 people a month. We'd love to accept more, but as you'll understand what I'm about to share with you, we don't actually have the ability to scale it that big because simply put, we actually give you a lot as part of the process. And so I want to take a moment up front. There's no pressure or expectation here as well. If this is not for you, it's totally fine. But I'm speaking to a few of you on this call, and perhaps even more than a few, that feel as though something's been lit inside of you. Right? That there is something about this work that just feels right, that feels as though this is the sort of stuff you were put on the planet to do. I never could explain to people why I felt like I was called to do this work. I just knew it inside of me. I remember seeing when I was 16, I remember watching a video on my phone of Tony Robbins. I would go into work with Tony quite a bit, but this before I knew him. And I remember watching a video of Tony and I just knew that's what I'm here to do. Like, I didn't even know what he was doing, but I was like, that's it. What he's doing is what I'm here for. And then I've spent the rest of my life now at 35, nearly 36, spending my life learning, absorbing, mentoring, connecting, and being able to use this to share this with other people. And so the greatest gift that I could give you is to truly share with you everything that I've learned and everything that my team's learned so that you can then take that and run with it moving forward. But all I ask before we jump into this is just two things. One, if you feel a desire to do this, if you feel inspired by this, I want you to hold in your mind that there's a possibility that we can make it work, right? It would have been very easy for me, having not made more than $9,000 US in my entire life previously, for me never have booked a call to never have had the conversation, right? But thankfully I didn't. And so I want you to hold the possibility that it's possible, that we might be able to support you in making it work. For some of you, $9,000 is nothing, but for some of you, that was a lot of money. And this course, by the way, is not $9,000, but just as a reference to the piece with Chris, that was my proxy. So first, I want you to hold the possibility that it's possible. The second thing as well is I want you to have the mindset that if we can make this work, and if we can find a win-win, and if we can give you a hand up, not a handout, the only thing that I ask is that you pay it forward. That you don't just learn and implement for yourself, but that you are generous of spirit. Because if you are generous of spirit and then that pays it forward, I want no claim or recognition or acknowledgement of it, by the way. I don't care if you tell people you learn from us or not. I just want to give you the tools, but I just want you to pay them forward because I think we need more people that are going out there and are playing offense, not defense, right? So if you're in that mindset, then let's have that conversation. So if you'll indulge me just for a moment, I want to talk a little bit about that, explain how it all works, and give you a link to apply, and we can have those conversations together. Just as a quick reference, by the way, because we only have a few spots and I want to make sure that I give everyone the chance to apply. If you go to this link here, I've just posted up into the chat, by the way, you can go ahead and apply. And on the page, you've got all the information about the program I'm about to take you through, and you can apply and book a call with our team straight away, and we can start having a chat later on today or earlier on this week, okay? So give me 1 second, I'm going to go through it, but I just wanted to post those links for everybody in the chat. Okay. So let me take you through this. We've been doing the Masters of Coaching at Wild Success since we started. It was our second program that we ever ran, right? And really, it is the second half of this course, right? If you imagine that this is the foundational tools, then you've got the mastery tools. The Masters program is different in two reasons. I want you to write this down. First is, of course, there's some new shit, right? Like there's a different level of education at the master's level because it's deeper and more profound. We're building on the foundations you've already learned. So there's definitely new materials that you're going to learn, but that's not the reason why you should do it. It's not just new information. The reason why you should do it, there's some new shit. Yeah. Elizabeth, that's a technical term. I learned that at King's College, okay? There's some new shit, some good shit, right? This is okay shit. The next level is great shit, right? So that's true. But the best part about this, the part that probably will terrify some of you as well, which is good, is that the only way you graduate the next level is practical implementation. It is a massive focus, an overwhelming focus, not on what you know, not on what you read, not on what you watched, but what have you actually fucking done? And so the only way you graduate the next level with us is by doing the work. And that's difficult to do when you're out there in the wilderness by yourself. But what we create is a container for you where you learn and implement in real time every fucking week in the course. And then, of course, after the course as well, you're welcome to continue to do that so that you actually learn this stuff, so that you actually implement the stuff, so you actually fully embody the stuff. Because otherwise, it's just more mindset stuff. It's just, forgive me for a crass example, it's mental masturbation, right? You never get anywhere. And so what we want to do is we want you to actually learn and implement, learn and implement, learn and implement. Now that's going to be hard at first, messy in the middle, but beautiful at the end. Because when you have a real experience of knowing that you can actually help somebody change their life, that feedback mechanism is outrageous. You come to a place, and I'm sure everyone's realized this as a parent, is that no matter how much more you succeed as a parent, it's never going to replace the benefit of your children succeeding for themselves. Right? Like, for me, having that awareness, like my girls already think that I'm successful, right? So it doesn't matter if I make more money or less money, it makes no fucking difference. But if I can help them feel successful for themselves, that improves it. Like once you've demonstrated that you can do it, it's really not about you anymore, it's about somebody else. And so one, it's important that you create the breakthrough of the glass ceiling to show, hey, what's possible, but then it's really about equipping and empowering others to be able to do the work. And that's exactly what we do. So it's a 9-week live training. The full program offers about 6 months as a journey though. 6 months as a journey, 9 weeks of live immersive training, but keeping in mind you have lifetime access. So you've got lifetime access to do the program. You can come back and reset it as many times as you like, no extra cost. And so we've got 9 weeks together. In that 9 weeks, we're going to go through things like client dynamics and coaching styles. We're going to help you design your own transformational methodology. In the same way that we have the wild method, you're going to design your own method. We spend 3 weeks covering the wild methods. We spend a week on vision, a week on alignment, a week on strategy. We go through values work and how do you change and transform someone's highest values. We spend a week looking at mapping the subconscious and the work of Carl Jung, primary questions and roles and rules. This is an amazing, amazing program. And in every one of those sessions, there are homework assignments for you that you've got to practically implement and get graded and assessed as part of the program with us. Now, the way that that works is pretty phenomenal. You'll actually buddy up with people in the program. We call it coaching labs. You'll partner with people in the program. So we actually allocate you a group for yourself. And what you'll do is you'll actually facilitate a live coaching session recorded on Zoom. You send that to us. Our team review that video and review the transcript, and then we provide you a grade and an assessment based off every session that you do. And you've got to pass each assessment in order to pass the overall unit in and of itself, which is amazing. The piece there that probably most people will get the most out of is values and primary questions. Post it into the chat, yes or no, if you're familiar with when I say primary question, if you know what I'm talking about. Yes or no in the chat. Okay, most of you are not. So amazing. So let me just touch on this because this is quite a powerful piece in and of itself. So you can appreciate that we're all asking and answering questions every day, right? Whether that be little things like what am I going to have for lunch, or bigger things like what are we going to do with the rest of my fucking life, right? There's a full spectrum of questions. But when we are children, we go through what we call significant emotional events. Sometimes they can be trauma, but sometimes they can just be a significant event. And we ask ourselves constantly 3 questions. I want you to write them down. What's happening? What does it mean to me? And what am I going to do about it? What's happening right now? What does that mean? And what am I going to do? What's my next action step or my next distinction? And you can appreciate that there's nothing more frustrating, especially for a child, a young child, than not having a clear answer to a question of what's going on, right? Like confusion it's like people when they're drowning, they'll hold on to anything. And so often when we're in a significant emotional event and we don't have strong regulated adults around us, trauma happens and we go, what's happening? I can't make sense of it. And so as a result of that, I can go in a really wild direction, right? You can appreciate how, and this is not hopefully going to trigger anybody on the call, but chances are just by percentages it will. If a child has been abused and they can't reconcile why somebody that they love has abused them, you can appreciate how they go, what is happening? I like, what does that mean? What am I going to do about it? And they can mislabel that as being an issue for themselves about them. And then they end up living a completely fucking radically different life than what they should have. Hands up, you picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah, massive, right? So I always remember when I was 9 years old, mum and dad separated, and they didn't use the word separation or divorce. They, just fucking broke up, and it was messy and horrible and all those things, right? And so I remember mom telling me and my sister to grab our bags. We're at our house. She's grab your bags. We're leaving. Okay, pack my bags. I don't know what's going on. Grab my bags, and I remember walking out towards the car, and dad, my dad's a pretty emotional guy at the best of times, but massive guy, 6'2", 120 kilos, big dude. And I just remember him just being hysterical and just screaming for us to come back. And she's, "No, I'm leaving you." And we got in the car, and I was like, "What's going on?" And I asked mom, I said, "Well, what's going on?" She says, "Me and your dad are just not happy anymore. So we're going to go and stay at your granny granddad's." Now, that's an appropriate explanation for a 9-year-old, right? It's an appropriate explanation. It could have been certainly much worse. But in my mind, I thought, fuck, okay. And this is not conscious at 9. Took me years of therapy later to realize this. But then there's a primary question that gets created in that moment. Okay, I see my dad breaking down. I see my mom in tremendous pain. They're being toxic with one another for some time now. The house has been just a horrible place to be in. And when we're leaving, mom says, "We're just not happy anymore." So in my mind, I go, oh, okay. If you make people happy, and if people are happy with you, then they're never going to leave you, and you'll never experience the pain that dad's feeling right now. And so I create a primary question, which is, how can I make people happy? But that's only half the question, because the full question is, how do I make people happy so that they don't leave me? And so from 9 years old, you can appreciate the spiral that has on the rest of my life for years and decades to come, because the fact that I go, oh, I never want to experience what mom and dad are experiencing in this moment. Particularly, I never want to experience what dad's experiencing in this moment. And so if I just go out of my way to make everybody happy, then no one's ever going to leave me. Because I'd rather deal with the difficulty of that than the heartbreak of them leaving in that way. Hence, you picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah. And so you can appreciate that that's a beautiful question to ask. How do I make people happy? But when it's from a trauma place of how do I make people happy so they don't leave me, so I never feel like my dad did, right? If you come from that place, there's such a charge around that you're going to overcompensate. You're going to find yourself engaging in the world in a way that you shouldn't, only because of the fact you have unresolved trauma. Hence, this is making sense. So that's just one technique that we teach in the entire program, but you can appreciate how significant that bit is. So we're going to go through all of that. Then we've got access to our Tools of Transformation home study library. Got over 100 hours of downloads and demos and scripts and tools and techniques for you to dive into. You've got the coaching labs, as we mentioned, where you can get practical experience. Then you've got your Masters of Coaching certification. So this is an ICF accredited coaching certification, IICT, International Institute of Complementary Therapies, the CPD Alliance, and the Coaching Alliance, so internationally recognized and accredited. We get you accredited in all of those things. And then in addition to that, and this is one of the best parts, as a graduation gift, when you graduate and finish the course, we give you up to 30 clients from all over the world to help you get your coaching business started. Out of all the things that I've seen that hold coaches back the most, it's a lack of experience. Without a doubt, just that one thing, it's a lack of experience. It's the lack of the ability to get any game time. It's like a chicken and an egg scenario, right? It's like you apply for a job that's like an entry-level job, but it says that they need prior experience. So, well, fuck, man, how am I meant to get prior experience? This is an entry-level job, right? And so it's like, you try to get clients, they go, tell me what sort of results you've got. And you go, I don't have any results yet. And they go, well, wait until you give me some more results before I come back. And so these are pro bono sessions. These first 30 clients that you work with, we give them to you. They're pro bono. They're designed to help you get some credibility, some testimonials, some references, some endorsements. Great for obviously marketing and branding. But about 40% of the time, clients will stay with you economically. And so if you imagine 30 clients, let's even say 30% stay, 10 clients, the average client that graduates our master's program will be coaching at the $300 to $500 an hour mark, $300 to $500. So if you were to keep, say, 10 clients at $300 a session, that's $3,000 a week or a month, depending on how frequently you do coaching. It doesn't take a lot before you get your business going. If you keep 10 clients, one session a month, $300 a month, that's $36,000 a year in coaching. That really just comes up the back of you giving some free coaching sessions away. Now, $36,000 is not going to retire you, right? It's not going to make that much of a difference in your life overall, but it might be the difference that allows you to leave a job that you don't love and then set yourself up to then go all in on this coaching thing to pursue your dreams and your passion long term. And so there is this sort of breakthrough moment where you can become a full-time coach, not because you want to work full-time, but just so you can dedicate all of your time to doing it. And that's when you can start to exponentially increase as part of that. Hans, are you picking up what I'm putting down? Amazing. So that's the whole pack. We're going to give it all to you. And on top of that as well, we have this incredible 4-day live event that we've done in the past pre-COVID. And also during COVID, we ran it as well. And so you're going to get instant access to the replay of that. And then when we do the event again live, which I'm hopeful will either be this year or early next year, we're going to give you a complimentary ticket to come and join us in person as well for it, which will be amazing with people all over the world. So that's cool as well. So at the end of the day, this is our goal. We want to make you a confident and certified coach so that you can, I want you to write this down, coach anyone, anytime about anything. Anyone, anytime, anything, right? Who's ever seen the UFC before? You know what I'm saying when I say the UFC, right? The Ultimate Fighting Competition, right? There's an incredible guy in that space, Conor McGregor. I'm sure you've heard about him before, right? Phenomenal ego, right? Like outrageously arrogant, but before he lost his last couple of fights, he really used to back it up, right? And his mindset was, I'll fight anyone, anytime, anywhere, right? Like, doesn't matter who they are, I'm ready to go, right? And so, not that coaching is combative, but certainly it is a full contact sport. We want to be in a place where it doesn't matter who comes to you. It could be in the lift, it could be at the supermarket, it could be on the train somewhere. If you've got an opportunity to make a difference in somebody's life, I want to make sure that you're in a place where it doesn't matter who they are, where they are, what they want, what's going on for them, that you've got the skills and tools and abilities to make a difference in their life. That's my commitment to you, is to give you everything that you need and nothing that you don't, so you can make a difference in people's lives, right? That's ultimately our end goal and our end outcome. So that's the whole thing. As I said, the whole pack's about 19,000 US. And what we do is with the scholarship is we cover the majority of those fees for you. It's not a handout, it's a hand up, right? So you have to pay a little bit of money, but not a lot in reality, and we'll cover the vast majority of it for you. But you can appreciate, because every session that you do has to be graded and assessed by our team, there's some cost in that. Because we have to give you 30 coaching clients to be able to get you started on your journey, there's some cost and effort involved in that as well, right? And in order to facilitate the program, there's some costs. So we've done our very best to make this as lean as possible so we can pass on the savings to you, but you get the idea. This is a little bit more of an investment on our side than these big group programs. It's smaller, more intimate, certainly more dynamic for you as part of that process. So there's 5 things that we look for in a student. Number 1 is you have to have a passion. I don't want you to be perfect. I have no desire for you to be perfect, right? You're never going to be perfect anyway. Certainly, we don't ever expect you to be. But what our goal is we want you to just be passionate. I can work with passion, right? My job is to channel that passion for you in the right direction. So that's number 1. Number 2, you've got a desire to be the best that you possibly can be. Best that you possibly can be. Number 3, you're open to feedback, you're coachable, and you want to improve, right? Like, strong opinions, loosely held. I want you to have a bit of ego. I want you to think a bit about yourself, but I don't want that to get in the way. That's what we're looking for as well. We want you to also back yourself and be prepared to invest in yourself at the time and the money required to be able to make an impact in the world. And then finally, and this is the most important, do I believe that you're someone that I'd be proud to have represent us? Because when it's all said and done, I'm going to give April 30 coaching clients, or I'm going to give Michelle 30 coaching clients, or Amanda 30 coaching clients, or Eden 30 coaching clients. I'm not making any money on those clients. That's just a gift, right? And so what's more important is, even if I was making money, and I'm not, but even if I was, I'd want to know that you're going to do the right thing by them. I'd hate to think that I gave clients to somebody and they said they didn't show up, they were unprofessional, they were arrogant, they were in your face, they were obnoxious, they didn't really help me, they just traumatized me. That's the worst possible scenario for us. So we obviously we hold that reputation very strongly. We want to make sure that you're going to do the right thing by them in a really powerful way. Hans, do you think that's fair enough, by the way? Awesome. Fantastic. So to that point, by the way, you can't buy the course. It's by application. That's why we want to have a dialogue with you. That's why we want to interview to find out a bit about you and also want to give you the opportunity in the space to do the same thing for us as well. Okay. So the process is real straightforward and simple. I want to be very transparent with you. It's got to be a fuck yes. Write this down. It's got to be a fuck yes or a no, right? Way too often in our lives, we go, that's all right. We have no time for that. What we want you to be like, fuck, this sounds amazing and I'm in. I would love to explore that. If we can make it a win-win, chef's kiss. If not, no problems. But you get a sense of what that looks like. So step number one is that you apply. Now to apply, very, very simple, is if you go to the link that I've just posted up into the chat and just literally click on that hyperlink, that'll take you straight through to the page. On the page will be some information about the program and you can click apply, and that's the first part of your application. From there, you'll then book an application assessment call. 30 minutes with me or a member of the team to go through your application and to see if we're a good fit. On that call, we'll talk a little bit about your goals and dreams, what you want to achieve. We'll talk a little bit about the program. You can ask any questions you've got. We'll ask you some questions. And if it's a beautiful fit, then we'll talk to you about the scholarships. Okay. Step number 3 is that we then make an offer for you. We'll say, look, we'd love to offer you a scholarship and here's the options available to you. And we'll go through what that looks like financially for you. And if we think you're a success and also if we have spaces available, we'll make that offer. We do not give, I want to be very clear, we do not give every person a scholarship. It's not how we operate. And typically speaking, about 30% of people that apply are successful, right? But that could be higher or lower depending on the quality of the applications, right? I'd happily give no one a scholarship if I didn't think it was the right fit. Then number 4 is once you've accepted that scholarship, which you'll do on your application call, once you've said, yes, I'd love to do that, we'll take care of some paperwork, we'll organize some financial details. You're not required to make any payment up front. We give you 3 days, 72 hours to review everything, to sleep on it, to meditate about it, to cleanse your chakras, to pray to your shamans, to do whatever you need to do. And at the end of that 72 hours, if you are on board, ready to rock and roll, we move forward. And if you're not, no problems at all. You can withdraw at any point in the first 3 days just to make sure that you're comfortable with it all. And then finally, we confirm your enrollment. So very straightforward. We try to be as transparent as possible. Step 1, you apply. Step 2, we have a call. At the end of the call, if we think it's a win-win and you want to do what we want to do with you, we'll make an offer for you to have a scholarship. You can accept it or reject it, your choice. Once you've accepted it, assuming you do, you have 3 days to review everything. At the end of the 3 days, we then move forward together as part of that process as well. Really easy. Okay, so no pressure. We want to try and make it as straightforward for you as possible. So there's the details in the link. If you go to the link, bit.ly/MOC USA, you'll see all the information about the program and what's involved. And if you give me 1 second, I'll just share what the page looks like for you all. Okay. 1 sec. Okay, so you'll see here all the information about the program and what's involved. Oh, shit. Click the wrong button. So as you scroll down here, you'll see some information about the course, what's included in the materials, the full investment. There's some beautiful testimonials here as well. We paid these guys a lot of fucking money to say nice things. So make sure you watch them. I want to make sure I get value for money. No, only joking. These are beautiful testimonials. And you click apply. Once you click apply, a little pop-up comes up. Fill in some information, complete your application. Then you go to this page where you can then book an application call, fill in some details here, and then find a time that's convenient for you. And then what it'll do is it'll redirect you to a type form. It'll just ask you some more questions. Why do you want to apply? It may even ask you to leave a short video explaining a bit about what your intent and your purpose is there as well, so we can get some context for you. That's all amazing stuff for us. And then the team will take through that for you as part of the process. So you get access to the material straight away. The next live training, I believe, begins in July, if I'm not mistaken. And you'll go through that together with us as part of that process together. Okay. So there's a lot there for you to be able to unpack. Okay. I'm going to post that link up again. Now, here's what I'm going to do. If you have any questions about it, obviously let's have a dialogue on the phone. But if you like to as well, I'll hold a little bit of space at the very end of today's call and we can go through a few more of those questions. But what I would encourage you to do is if you're even remotely serious about it, click on the link, book a call now. I'll give you 30 seconds to do that, get that applied. Then at least you've got that in the process, and then we can go through some questions for you at the very end as well, okay? Just to give you a heads up, we're going to cover the vast majority of your fees, right? That's not a financial is not really a barrier for most people in doing it. That's very rarely a problem. And we do have options available where we can help you make it. I am genuinely, and this is not anything to do with this call, but I am genuinely fucking terrified about the implications that we have for artificial intelligence in this world, right? I think this is an unbelievable power. Unbelievable fucking power. I'm so excited about it. But if I'm being honest with you, I think there's going to be a lot of fucking people going to lose their jobs in the next 3 years. Okay? And so, like, this is not an exaggeration. In my company now, we've got 40 staff. And I reckon with the exception of the facilitators that run the programs, we could replace 38 of our 40 staff with AI right now. The only reason we're not is because we love the team, right? But there's a lot of people on this call right now that are going to be disproportionately affected by that. In fact, I saw a study just the other day that said disproportionately women in administrative roles are the most at risk with regards to AI. Women that are in any form of administrative roles are the most at risk. And so here's the scenario. I've got a big belief, which is act as if. Act as if. Let's act as if you've lost your job. Right? You haven't, hopefully, but if you have, awesome. Either way, you're going to be anyway. But let's act as if. If I was to lose my job tomorrow, what's my plan? And if you've just lost your job doing the thing that you were doing, chances are everyone else in your industry is also fucking laying off people as well. They're probably not hiring for people right now. So what's the best way to preempt that happening? We'll lean into that as much as possible. Learn as much as you can in AI. We'll all give you a free AI course. We have one that we've created for this purpose. But on top of that as well, what becomes even more valuable in a world that becomes increasingly artificial? It's the genuine human connection. It's the ability for us to coach and lead and support and manage and communicate, both with AI and also with each other, right? And so if you are a person that keeps your job, well, then more is going to be required of you to communicate and to connect and to deal with the pressures and challenges of that work. That's self-evident. If you lose your job, you're going to have to find a way to reinvent yourself and to reapply your skills to support and coach other people and help them deal with the challenges that they've got, right? Now, you might not end up becoming a coach, but you get the idea. It's like, as we stretch that even more, it's like when people move to online learning, right? Live events become even more significant and online learning becomes significant, but everything in the middle gets left out. So if there's a skill that you could learn other than learning the skill of AI, it would be learning the skill of deep human connection, the ability to coach and lead and support and mentor and guide other people. That's only going to become increasingly more valuable in the new world that we're heading into. And so if you can learn this now, it's going to make a massive fucking difference for you in the future. Take that as a lesson as much as you want or not, but trust me when I tell you, I do believe in the next 3 to 5 years, there's going to be a fuckload of people that are going to be coming knocking on the door of wild success, wanting to learn this stuff. The only problem is it's better to learn it while you still have a job than trying to learn it when you don't have one. Because obviously financially, most people don't do well under that tremendous pressure. So we'll do the best that we can to help, but I hope that you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. Hands, is this making sense? Amazing. Now, outside of all of that, let's dive into this piece because I really want to help you unlock this in a major way for you all, okay? As I said, I'll post that link up again for everybody. Book a call. Let's have a chat. And we can go through some questions at the very end. Now, what I'm about to share with you, both you can take and run with right now just as a framework, but understand the framework we're teaching now, the implementation of the framework we're going to take you through in the next course. And this is the 7 levels of human transformation. And it's a hierarchy of change and transformation. I want you to think about this as a principle as we get started today. If you work at the top of the pyramid, it changes everything. So the higher you go, the better the change and transformation. Lower levels are foundational, not transformational. I want you to write that down. The lower levels are foundational, but not transformational. Foundational, not transformational. And there's three, and like this broken down into 2 blocks of 3. So I want you to imagine, if you can, you draw a line through the middle of the pyramid, and the top half of the pyramid is what we would call transformational coaching tools, and the bottom half is what we would call traditional coaching tools. So there's a real distinction here, and this is a major unlock for you all mentally. The distinction here is, are we doing transformational or traditional coaching? Both is great, both will get you paid, but one's going to get you paid in an amazing way and really change the world, and the other one is just going to get you paid but create a sense of dependency. I'm going to explain why in a second. So let's break this down level by level. We'll start at the bottom. And now we're here, right? So level one is environmental. Environmental. I want you to write this down. Environment is greater than willpower. Environment is greater than willpower. And so if I wanted to change and transform your life, if I put you in a new environment, that environment would, as a result, change and alter your behavior. A lot of our behaviors are context dependent, right? This is why you see some cultural problems with, has anyone watched the new documentary series that just come out called Into the Manosphere? It's on Netflix, right? Fucking toxic, man. Unbelievable, right? But you get a group of men together without any sense of morality or values, and then you get them feeding and compiling and building on one another, and it just goes in a fucking outrageous place, right? And you see, obviously, different parts of the world have different value structures. I met a couple, Tara, I agree with that generalization, but I can appreciate some men may be terrible. I met a couple from New York City, right? I knew they were from New York City by two reasons, right? One was the accent, but I knew they were from New York City before the accent because they walked with a sense of purpose and pace that wasn't becoming of someone in Uluru, right? Like you meet someone from New York and they fucking move, right? Like they move. Even when they were just walking to the bus, they're always fucking moving. It's like you guys, you're built different from New York City, right? In Australia, we've got obviously Sydney and Melbourne. We've got this beautiful place called Byron Bay. It's where Chris Hemsworth lives, if you're familiar with Thor, the movie star, right? And it's a very different world, right? So you can appreciate there's a very different experience of life if you live in New York City versus Byron Bay, right? Very different living in London, for example, versus living in Ibiza. Just different environments, and they're going to bring out different aspects of people's personalities. Now, there's an incredible coach, if I can call her a coach, maybe a thought leader is probably a better example of her work, is Marie Kondo. Who's heard of Marie Kondo before and her work around the subtle art of tidying up? Yes or no? Yep. No. I may love her. Yeah, she's fantastic, right? So some of you have, some of you haven't. Awesome. So Marie Kondo is this beautiful Japanese teacher, and she's got a process that she calls the subtle art of tidying up. And effectively what she does is she teaches people how to clean their homes and spaces intentionally. That's effectively her methodology. And what she does is she realizes that most people, like all of us, have got a drawer full of just shit, right? Like I saw this meme the other day, and it was everyone by the time they get to like 35 years old has got a drawer that they use for random junk and also the most essential documents of their entire lives, like birth certificates and passports, and just random shit, and it's all in the same drawer, right? Like it's crazy. Like fuck, in this drawer, I don't want to chuck anything out because there's random pens and paper clips and also my kids' birth certificates, all in the same place, right? So we've all just collect stuff, right? And so Marie Kondo goes, hey, let's find the space and then ask yourself, this is the beautiful quote, write this down. Does this spark joy? Does it bring me joy? And if it brings you joy, keep it. And then she's got a way of categorizing and organizing it so that you can access it easily. But if it doesn't bring you joy, then her whole thing is basically you should light a bonfire in your front yard with your ex's belongings and you should burn that shit and cleanse it to the moon gods. She doesn't do that bit. That's a joke. Maybe that's part of her advanced course. I don't know. But basically, she encourages you to sort of release it and to surrender it and to give it away and to give it to somebody else who might find joy from it as well, right? But that's a whole thing. Now, we have two beautiful little girls. You've met them already, Alila and Ivana, right? 4 and 2. On a Monday, right? Monday's a special day for us in the Coyles household because our girls go to my gran and granddad's, their great granddad's and great grandma's house, right? They fucking love it. They love their Gigi and Gran. So they go in the morning, and then on Monday, our housekeeper and our cleaner show up, Danny and Rochelle, and they clean the house. They do a full deep clean of the whole house. And so they normally finish at around about 1 o'clock, and the girls don't come back from Gigi and Gran's until 4. So between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on a Monday, my house is fucking pristine. Right? It looks like it could be on Architectural Digest, right? Like The sort of house where you walk around, you're like, oh, this is how it feels to live without children, right? Like fucking amazing. Everything's all manicured, it's all perfect, right? If it's a lucky week, Mohammed the gardener's been and he's cleaned the gardens as well. It's like, this is how I want to live from now on, right? Now, 3:59 comes around, the girls show up, and like tornadoes of destruction, they come through the house. And by 4:03, we've got 15 costume changes. Elsa and Anna are half naked on the floor and the dress ups. We've got music playing from 4 rooms with 4 different Disney songs and characters. There's yogurt all over the kitchen bench. The house is a fucking bomb site again, right? And somebody might go, Cal, it's not really worth it for 3 hours. And I go, you don't know how important those 3 hours are to my mental health. I need those 3 hours to keep me going for another 7 days, right? Like that's what gives me hope. It gives me hope, those 3 hours, right? But the point is that having a beautiful, clean home is wonderful, right? Wonderful. But then it becomes messy again because they are lived experiences, right? Like, does anyone ever remember the TV show Everybody Loves Raymond? Was that a big thing in the United States? I know it was big in Australia. Hands up if you know what I'm talking about. Everybody Loves Raymond, right? And the mom that lived a couple of doors down, she wrapped the couch in plastic, right? But that's not how people fucking live. And if it is, fucking get rid of the plastic couch, man. Holy shit, right? But then I remember the first time she took the couch thing off and they're sitting there and they're eating the crumbs and it starts to fall down, right? I remember that, right? So it's beautiful to have a clean environment, but ultimately that's not changing most things, right? Like it's not changing the rest of your career or trajectory of your life. It's not radically transforming your relationship. Sure, having a messy relationship, a messy house is going to add more drama to your life, but it's not to say that a clean environment is going to make all the difference in the world, right? Because ultimately we end up finding that we default back to old behaviors and patterns. Hands if this is making sense. So there's value in the cleaning of the house, but ultimately it has a short shelf life. It has a pretty quick expiry date, for want of a better choice of words. So level 1 is environment, right? It makes a difference, but ultimately you have to continually work on it if that's why it's foundational and transformational. Number 2 is behavior. Now, if I change your environment, I can change your behavior, but also if I change your behaviors, I'll naturally change your environment. And so imagine you decide, okay, cool, I'm going to embrace a health kick, right? And so as a result of that, you're going to start to change your environment accordingly. The behavior changes the environment. And as a result of that, you might start going to the gym more and you might stop, going out to the pub, not as much. You probably clean up your environment in terms of you get rid of some of the snacks from the house, for example, and you start to see that the environment changes to have some more healthy food options in the home, right? You start to make an adjustment. Your behaviors have an imposing impact on the environment around you. Someone that has a high degree of health and fitness in their lives and is showing up in that area, their environment looks different to someone that has a value around leisure and leisure. Yeah, like just what happens. And when you have children, your behaviors, start going to parks and fucking kids' play centers a lot more than you do nightclubs, right? For obvious reasons. And so behaviors also have an impact, but again, they're foundational, not transformational. Then we've got capabilities. Now, there's a few different ways that you can think about capabilities. One of the ways you could think about it is skills. What are you capable of? Do you have the skill in that area? And that's a great way to describe it, but it's not a completely accurate way to describe truly what a capability is. Because I'm sure you've all had experiences before where you didn't actually know what the fuck you were doing, but you still managed to get it right. And you've also had probably other times where you knew what you were doing, but you couldn't find a way to be motivated enough to make it happen. And so it's not whether or not you have or don't have the skill that matters. It's as much more about perhaps your emotional resilience or your emotional fitness and also your beliefs. And so if you believe something's going to happen, even if you don't have the skills, you probably have a crack. And if you don't believe something's going to happen, even if you have the skills, then you're probably not going to, right? So I want you to write this down. The Navy SEALs have a reference for life. They say you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your lowest level of conditioning. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your lowest level of conditioning. Now, I want you to explore this, if you will, a little bit. When I was in high school, I remember just, some moments just living rent-free in your head. Yeah, I'm sure you have like reflections back to moments that were maybe significant for you. Well, I remember being in what we call the year 10 quad. So this would have been, I would have been 15. 15. And we used to have like recess and lunch was in this sort of quadrangle, big square box, right? And I remember walking, having just come back from the cafeteria, and I remember just looking around at everybody and realizing that most people believed that they were capable of less than they really were. Like most people just didn't believe in themselves. Like most people would play small. They wouldn't put themselves out there because they were afraid that they were going to fail. And so as a result of that, they would sort of undercook it a little bit, right? And then I realized there were some people that believed they were capable of much more than what they really were. But I had this realization at 15 that really no one that I knew, certainly at that point, I can tell you now, having now worked with people all over the world, I've actually never met anybody that ticks this box. No one that I've ever met has a real true sense of what they're actually capable of. Now, some people have a high level of self-awareness, so they're closer to the bullseye, but I can't tell you that I've ever met anybody that can really clearly, purposely articulate in real time what they're capable of. Because I'm sure we'd all agree, if the stakes were high enough, we would move heaven and earth, but most of us don't move heaven and earth, not because we can't, but because the stakes are not high enough, right? Like the things that I would do to save my wife or children, I would die before I would give up. But I'm not going to die or give up in most other areas of my life because the stakes are not that high. Hands, guys, picking up what I'm putting down. Yeah. And so I had this realization at 15 of just going, hey, most people are wrong, right? I didn't know that everybody at that time was wrong, but I thought that most people were at least wrong. And you could be wrong in one of two directions. You can either believe, like most people do, that you're capable of less than you really are, knowing that you're sort of selling yourself short. Right? The glass ceiling is not really a glass ceiling. It's an imposed mental ceiling. It's a psychological ceiling. Most people sort of, they quit before they fail, so to speak, right? There's also some people that are arrogant, that are overconfident, whatever the case may be, and they think they're capable of way more than they are. But ultimately, if you have to make the decision, which one would you rather pick? For me, the choice was obvious. I was like, I'd rather believe I'm capable of more because I'm going to be wrong either way, right? I'm going to be wrong in thinking I'm capable of more, I'm going to fall short, or I'm going to believe I'm capable of less, and I'm going to be wrong, but it doesn't validate me in any way. I'd rather feel like I was capable of more, because what I also realized was this, and coming back to my point earlier today, if you hang around the barbershop right long enough, you get a haircut, even if you don't deserve one. If you put yourself in a position to win, you sometimes win, even if you didn't deserve to win. Most people don't put themselves in a position to win because they don't believe they're ever going to win. And so as a result, they've already failed, but they've manifested that absolute reality when it wasn't absolute. Hands, you picking up what I'm putting down? Somebody's like, I need a haircut. I'm glad that's the big takeaway from today's session. Fucking hang around in the barbershop, right? What did you take away? Barbershop. So I got that was overwhelming in the transcript. Barbershop was where it's at, right? So if you're going to be wrong, you may as well be wrong and be better than wrong and be right. And there's an incredible American sort of thought leader, Peter Diamandis from X Prize. Who's heard of Peter Diamandis? Right? He's what's known as a futurist. Effectively, he's very much on the cutting edge and just an incredible man, incredible story. He says he wants to fail above everybody else who succeeds. I want you to think about that. Fail above everybody else who succeeds. Peter Diamandis. That's his last name, for God's sake. But Peter Diamandis. I want to fail above everybody else who succeeds. It's like going, hey, I want to work with 1,000 people in 2026 in my coaching practice, okay? Where everyone else is aiming for 100. Now, you might fail and you might only work with 650, but you still beat everybody that even achieved the 100. Right? So it's like, just depends on, you get what you ask for. You don't get what you deserve, you get what you ask for. And so I think it's important that you swing for the fences. Right? Having a sense of self-belief that you go after what you want. So capabilities, I want you to write this down. Capabilities are the bridge between behaviors and beliefs. Capabilities is the bridge between behaviors and belief. If you have a strong training, strong behavior, so you know what you're doing, and you have strong belief, then that bridge, that arc of that bridge in terms of what's capable really reaches very high. But if you have low belief, you've got a lopsided bridge, or if you've got low training and low belief, then you've really got not much at all. Right? So you want to have the strongest bridge possible between beliefs and behaviors. And so that means developing and investing in the behavior, getting skills, but then it also means being able to believe in yourself that amazing things can happen so you can perform under tremendous weight, right? That's effectively what we're talking about. So that's the capabilities part. Then we've got values and beliefs. Now, you'll be aware, if anyone's paying attention, we have 7 levels of human transformation. There's only 6 boxes. Values and beliefs are almost like a brother and a sister, right? They're cousins. They're not the same thing, but they are so closely linked that we put them at the same level, but they're not the same category. So to be clear, they're 2 separate categories, but we will talk about them very similarly together. The reason why is I want you to think about them as like planets and moons or planets and satellites. Planets are the values, the beliefs are what's orbiting around those values. So as a shorthand, what you typically find is that you don't have beliefs or strong beliefs around the things that you don't value. If you look at the things in life that you have strong values around, good and bad, right and wrong, do or don't, it's often a reflection of the things that are important to you. Because think about it like this. In order to create or craft a belief about something, you have to be a learned person in that area. You don't just typically have beliefs from nothing, right? Like beliefs are not often thoughts and ideas and experiments or exposures to life that sort of compound over time that solidify into a sense of truth for you. How do you create that? It's through leaning into that work, through leaning into that world. If you've never had an exposure to it before, you really don't have any reference for it, so therefore you don't have any beliefs around it. If you pick an area of life that you have a real passion around, right? Like for you might be about health and fitness, you've probably got some strong beliefs around health and fitness, around good and bad, what's good about the industry, bad about the industry, what you should or shouldn't do. But if you have no desire or you don't know anything about health and fitness, then you don't have any beliefs around macro accounting or micronutrients or should you stand on the scales or not, because it's not at all relevant for you, right? You have no fucking idea about it. How's he picking up what I'm putting down? So belief, I want you to write this down. Beliefs are not good or bad. It's just whether they are useful or not. There's no good beliefs or bad beliefs. There's no right beliefs or wrong beliefs. They're just beliefs. And they're whether or not they're using you or you are using them. Henry Ford said it better than I ever could. He said, whether you think you can or can't, you're usually right. Because your beliefs, again, are reflections of the capabilities and behaviors. They are sort of the proxy of them, if you will. So what we want to be aware of is what are the beliefs that you've got and how do we reorder or sequence those beliefs in a way that allow you to live your best life. But you could take the belief of I'm unworthy or I'm not good enough, and that could be the fuel in your fire to allow you to go and achieve incredible fucking things. But equally so, you could also take those beliefs and that could be the reason why you don't achieve anything. It's not because of the fact that you have that belief, it's whether or not you're using it or it's using you. Making sense? Very important. Then we've got values. And we spend a lot of time on this in the next level. We spend an entire week dedicated to this area of life because, to be fair, there's very few things that are more significant than changing somebody's highest values. But let's explore them. When we talk about values, what are we talking about? Really, we're talking about subconscious priorities. Write that down. We're talking about subconscious priorities. Not conscious priorities, subconscious priorities. And how do I know what your subconscious priorities are? I would look for, I want you to write this down. This is fucking deep. I'm doing some good shit today, guys. This is some of that good shit. Great shit is in the next course, but this is the good shit bit, okay? I laugh at my own jokes. Whether you do or not, it doesn't faze me. I don't have any beliefs around that. I know I'm funny. It's not a belief, it's a fact, okay? So, actually, now I forget what I was actually fucking talking about. What was I saying? Okay, so values. If I wanted to know your values, how would I find your values? Well, I would look for the external manifestation of your internal priorities. And there's a lot of long words in there, Miss Ronnie. We're not but humble pirates. I would look for the external manifestation of your internal priorities. Let's break that down. External manifestation. Basically, what are the evidences of your values? If I look around, and by the way, for some of you, obviously you get a real insight to your lives, into your homes, right? When you see your backgrounds, right? So I'm just looking at Brian Bailey, by the way. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Look at that handsome man there, by the way. Fuck, I wish I could grow a beard like Brian. That's one of my bucket lists, okay? I'd love to be able to do that. This is me. I haven't shaved for 6 years. No, I'm only joking. I shaved this morning, but to be fair, there was nothing, right? Nothing. But if you look at Brian's background, we've got books and what could only be described as some really official looking Canva certificates that he's printed out at home and stuck on his wall to add credibility, right? I'm only joking, brother. I'm only joking, right? I don't know what the background is, but it looks like some sort of credentials or diplomas, or it looks like something that I'm making an assumption. I don't know what it is, but you get the idea. If I look at Brian's background, I can see books and I can see what looks like diplomas. Yeah, it looks like some sort of professional education or qualification, right? Now, if I didn't know anything about Brian other than that, and that was a reflection of the values that might be important to him, what might be some of the things that we would say are important to Brian as a result of just having that tiny insight into his world? Just post it into the chat. Education, growth, yeah, knowledge, yeah, significance, yeah, there's a sense of pride of, you know, look at what I've achieved, right? Growth, knowledge, research, education, leadership, yeah, loves to read. You probably assume that he can read, right? That's a great start, right? Great education, yeah, intelligence, order, organization, cleanliness, yeah, absolutely, yeah, beautiful. So these are all judgments, right? But we can make that judgment by looking at the work and the world that Brian gives us, right? It's no different, yeah? There's other examples as well. I'm just going to see if I can try and find another example of the background, right? Let me see if I can try and find somebody else that's got some cool stuff in the background. Some of you got AI backgrounds, right? Let me see if I can find another example. Now everyone turns their cameras off so they don't get chucked under the bus, right? But you get the idea. Similar is true here, right? Obviously, I've also got books and things like that as well. I've got a variety of different things here that are important to me, but these are all reflections of your values, right? If you walk around somebody's home, the way they decorate their home, the things that they have in their home are intentionally reflection of their values. Now, they're not going, hey, let me put my values on display for the world to see, but they are subconsciously doing that. I want you to think about that. People are not walking around their house going, let me intentionally put on my values for the world to see, but they are doing that, right? If you've got tattoos, post them into the chat, yes or no, if you've got tattoos. I've got this beautiful little butterfly on my lower back. It's just stunning, right? I don't, I'm only joking. But you can appreciate if someone goes to the effort of tattooing their body, that tells me about your values, yeah? Tells me about your values. Now, you might go, my values are I'm here for a good time, not a long time, and I was fucking drunk in Cabo, right? That's still a value, right? The story does matter, right? But I have tattoos, right? I've got this beautiful one here. I got this done, by the way, when I was in Bali, when I finished working for Chris Howard. Remember I said I spent 6 months working for him? I was terrified. This is a longer story than I probably have time for, but fuck it. Jason's not on the call. I'm going to go for it. So I was terrified when I was leaving Chris Howard after 6 months working for free for the guy. And I realized I probably learned as much as I was going to learn, and it was time for me to sort of spread my wings, right? So I said to Chris, I'm a peacock, you gotta let me fly. And that's a joke, I didn't obviously, but you get the idea. So I decided to leave, but I was terrified. Post up into the chat, let me ask you this, what do you think I was terrified of when I was coming back to Australia, having been away for 6 months? What was I afraid of more than anything else? My mum. Spiders. Yeah. Yeah, reverting to the old ways is probably the great example. I was afraid that nothing was going to change, right? Who's ever had something amazing happen in life and you came back and life just continued on and you sort of slipped back into the life that you were in before, and it was like it's almost like you're in this sort of water rapid in life and life is moving, and then you come back into it and you get just swept away again by it. And I knew that I was going back. My dad was very charismatic, big personality. And I knew that if I came back and I didn't really guard myself with a clear plan of action of what I wanted to do, it would be very easy to fall back into alignment with whatever was already going to be the case. And so I decided my final day in Bali, before I left, I got tattooed by bamboo, like needle, by hand, the words, the Warrior of Light from The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And I got it tattooed on my arm for a couple of reasons. One, I figured this is permanent, right? And I didn't want, especially because I got it in a different language, I didn't want somebody to come to me and go, hey, what does your tattoo say? And I go, Warrior of Light. It's about this time that I was in Bali and I did this apprenticeship to learn how to change people's lives. And then I came back and I gave up on my hopes and fucking dreams, right? Like I didn't want to have to say that to people. And so I figured that if I was able to then have a compelling story, give me a reference to go, hey, no, I'm making a commitment that this is the work that I'm going to do. This is what I'm fucking here for. And it was easier for me to live that than it was to remove that or deal with that shame or that pain, right? So Warrior of Light from The Alchemist. I got this after I had my girls. And this is a different piece as well, but you can't see this. I've got this little bull. Can everyone see the little bull? It's like upside down. I'll see if I can try and do it like this, right? It's a very masculine bull, right? So I forget that I have this, and I have like a massage, and people go, you got this really cute little bull on your back of your arm, right? I'm like, it's a very masculine bull, okay? It's a very aggressive, masculine bull is what it is. My granddad, when I was a kid, used to sing this beautiful 1950s song to us about little white bull, little black bull. It was like a nursery rhyme. And one night, my cousins decided that we're all going to go and get matching little bull tattoos for granddad. And so I got that, right? It's a reflection of family and values. Like these are values to me. One is about my work. One is about a spiritual purpose of why I believe I'm on the earth to do this work. And one is about little granddad and little black bull, right? That's what it's all about. So I share this with you as a reference point, not because of my tattoos, but because these are reflections of values, right? I want you to write this down. Life is a series of values conflicts. Life is a series of values conflicts. When you are at work, and you're clocking off for the day, but you know you've got more work to do, you've got a choice. Do you go home, spend time with your family? Do you go to the gym if you work on an evening? Or do you stay and you work later and push a bit harder to try to get ahead? That decision is not the same. It's the same decision for everybody, perhaps, but it's not the same outcome depending on your values. If you have a high degree or high desire to grow in your career, you're going to stay and work. If health and fitness is important to you, you're probably going to go to the gym. In fact, you've probably already gone to the gym in the morning. But if family is important to you, you're going to come home and spend time with your wife and kids, right? It's not right or wrong. It's not good or bad. But the outcome of that is going to be radically different, which is why, by the way, I want to be very clear for all of us. Who's heard of the principles of equality and believe that as equality is important, that we should work and strive to have a society that is equal as possible, right? Yes, in terms of equal opportunities, but not equal outcomes. Does everyone get this distinction? Because if myself and Maribel and Angela all decide to make a different decision, if I decide to stay at work and Maribel decides to go to the gym, and Angela decides to go and spend time with her family, it's fair to say that assuming we all show up the same level of enthusiasm and intensity and passion for life, that I should have a better career, Maribel should be in the best shape of fucking life, and Angela should have a great family dynamic. But we can't equally all expect to have the same body and the same family or the same career if we don't spend the same effort and investment into those key areas. Now, let's be clear, we're not all working from the same starting point, right? So it's not equal. But you get the idea. It's like if I invest more of my life into this endeavor, I should get better at this endeavor. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to win in all of these other areas, because if it was like that, well, then what's the point of even trying? And so life is a series of values conflicts, and it's important you get clear on what your values are. But here's the kicker, and I want you to write this down. This is perhaps the $1 million, and for some of you, even the $10 million question. It's not what are your values today? Most people, by the way, have no idea what their values are today. They've got no idea. They're very good at telling themselves what's important, but the reality is when you look at the evidence of their lives, when I say evidence of your life, I'm talking about the external manifestation. What am I talking about? 3 things. I want you to write these down. If I was to follow you around with a GoPro on my head and I filmed you, what do you do with your time? Okay. What do you spend money on? And what do you talk about? And if I could read your mind, what do you think about would be a great reflection of your values. So how are you spending your time, energy, and effort? How are you spending money? How are you engaging with people, right? What are you talking about, right? That would give me everything I needed to know. If I looked at your calendar, your credit card statement, and I had a transcript of all of your conversations for 90 days, I could tell you what's important to you. Because we are creatures of habit, right? For most people, their future is a well-rehearsed past. Now, it's easy to go, I'm motivated for a week. It's hard to be motivated for 3 months, right? So we know that there is a consistency that comes from that. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Yeah, like it leaves clues. Your values leave clues. If the only thing consistent about your health and fitness is that it's inconsistent, that tells me a lot. But if you're the sort of person that shows up every fucking day and goes to the gym without fail, if it's like, hey, I know where you're going to be tomorrow at 5:30 in the morning because you've gone to the gym at 5:30 every day for the last 7 years, then clearly that's an important area of your life. And I want to be clear about this. It's not about quote unquote discipline. It's a reflection of values. If something is a value, you don't need to be disciplined because it doesn't require willpower. Discipline is only required when you're trying to do something that you don't currently already have fully ingratiated in your life. Therefore, it's not a higher value, right? Like motivation and willpower is a myth. Not to say that it's not real, but to say that it's really the wrong focus. If you're trying to motivate yourself or hold yourself accountable to doing something, it's because it's not in alignment with what you're actually wanting to try to do. It's not the higher value for you. So if we change the value, you don't need willpower or motivation. It'll be a pull, not a push. Be a pull, not a push. So when we're looking at your values, it doesn't matter what your values are today. It's great to know them so you can know thyself. But really the biggest question is this. I want you to write this down. What do your values need to be in order for you to live the life of your dreams? What do your values need to be in order for you to live the life of your dreams? If I'm clear on where Laurie wants to be in 10 years from now, and we have a dialogue and we say, okay, cool, this is your 5 highest values today. This is where you're headed. They're not in alignment. Let's adjust them so we reorganize your values. That is the rocket fuel it's going to take Laurie to that level and even beyond that, right? But it's like if we're out of alignment, it's going to be very, very difficult. You guys picking up what I'm putting down? Amazing. Great. Then beyond values, identity. Identity, I want you to write this down. Identity is a macro belief. Identity is a macro belief. Identity is a macro belief. When I say a macro belief, I mean an overarching belief. The belief of who you think you are is a collection of all your micro beliefs stacked together, right? We talk about this in the master's program. We look at roles and rules. Roles being what are the characters that we play in our lives? So there's a character of Calvin Coyles, but that character is diverse in different environments. When I'm playing the role of a coach, it's different to the role of a brother. It's different to the role of a friend. It's different to the role of a husband, a father, a son, right? There's different roles that I play in my life. And depending on the role that I'm playing, some of my characteristics are not suppressed, but perhaps toned down, and some of them are toned up, right? Does that make sense? Imagine all of you have different facets and aspects of, it's still who you are, but in that role, you're playing the different strengths of your archetype. The macro belief of who you believe you are is when you put all of that together with all of the weight of how you spend all of that time. This is a big deal. This is, by the way, why a lot of women will find themselves in a position when they've had children and those children get a little bit older, they go through this whole eat, pray, love experience, right? Where they go, I want to rediscover who I am and I want to find myself again. It's not that they don't know who they are. But can you appreciate, and this is difficult for men to fully appreciate, so forgive me for my ignorance and even trying to describe this, but you understand it's difficult for men because we don't have this same change. But you go from not having a role of being a mother to then having this role that you play of being a mother, and it is a all-encompassing 365 days, 24/7 role that you play. And so if you keep playing that character for such a long time, it's difficult to realize that there was any other characters that you ever played. And then you get to a point where you don't need to keep playing that character anymore. And I say character just for drama, right? You understand it's not a character. You understand that? You get to a point where you go, actually, I don't need to play that same character anymore because now, but it's like I've been playing this character for 18 fucking years or 15 years, whatever it is. And I forgot that I had other characters that I played. This is a terrible analogy, but I'm going to share it with you anyway. Daniel Radcliffe, right, who played Harry Potter, his first major thing that he did was playing Harry Potter. And he played that for 20 odd years. And he said that he'd played Harry for so long that he had internally had 2 ways of responding to everything. He had his way and he had Harry's way, right? Because he played that character for such a long time. And so it's difficult for him not to be Harry because he's been that person for such a long time. Not that you don't want to be mum, but you understand the reference point that I'm trying to make. And so it's harder for dads to experience that because we are better at being able to silo and compartmentalize, right? Like dads often as well, because they're not with the children in most cultures all of the fucking time, then they're not always in dad mode. And so they're still being an executive or a leader or whatever else they're doing, as well as being a dad. Whereas mums, especially in that very early stage, for most mums, they're there all the time. It sort of becomes an all-consuming experience. And of course, kids, the relationship that kids have with mums is radically different. I don't care who the fuck you who says differently. The relationship children have with their mothers is radically different to the ones that they have with their fathers, right? It's a completely different environment, different world, right? So, and it should be. That's a beautiful thing. But you can appreciate why it's difficult, right? So if you've overplayed that hand and you've been like that for a really long time, it's difficult to appreciate that you've been other things. And so who am I when I'm not mum? I'm always going to be mum, but who am I when I'm not mum? I can be all of these other things as well. And it's an opportunity to re-explore and rediscover. So that's identity. The final part, though, is vision. The final part is vision. Now, when we say vision, let's be clear about what we're talking about. Are we talking about a compelling vision for your life? Yes and no. Yes and no. I am talking having a compelling vision for your life, but I'm not just saying that you've got a vision for your life in terms of, oh, I've got a cool goal that I want to launch my own podcast in the next 12 months. That's my compelling vision. That's not changing your entire identity and values and beliefs and everything else. Now, it can, but that's not so much because of the fact that you have the vision. It's because we set goals not to achieve them, but to become the person capable of achieving them. So if there is a compelling enough vision like that, it encourages you to shift and change and evolve your identity, values, and beliefs and capabilities to be that person. But that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is, what's the vision for your life that is greater than yourself? What's the vision that you have for your life that's greater than yourself? The belief that you're here for something greater than this, whatever this is. Not to diminish this in any way, but rather to emphasize that there's so much more available to you. Viktor Frankl talks about this in Man's Search for Meaning, right? If you have a strong enough why, you can overcome anyhow. And so the vision, whether that be through God, through spirit, through religion, whatever your belief system is, that belief that you're guided by faith and not by sight. That you're here for a divine purpose, whatever that might be. If you have that vision, it allows you to sort of move beyond this current paradigm and to think that maybe there's something greater than that in your life, and that itself can help you transcend or supersede your own sense of self. So like the only thing stronger than your sense of self is your sense of something greater than yourself. Like the identity, who you believe you are, is the strongest force in the human experience, the strongest force in the human experience, only with the exception of the capacity that you have to believe in something greater than yourself. That's my wife's phone, guys. I don't know why someone's calling her. So think about that, right? Like, yeah, it's who's experienced, by the way, that you've had experiences in life where you've had low self-esteem and self-confidence, and perhaps you've been in an abusive or a toxic dynamic where someone belittled you and made themselves big, right? I've certainly been in those places before, right? That's a negative dynamic version of that. But there's a positive version when you have a strong sense of self and you still believe there's something greater than yourself. That's really dynamic and quite powerful. And so I'm not sure if we talked about this last week or not, but in behaviors, we look at the work of Charles Duhigg, an incredible book called Habit, Why We Do What We Do and How to Change It. And in that book, Charles did a lot of work with the Alcoholics Anonymous program, and I think it's 10 steps or 12 steps. But in there, they added in this step. It wasn't part of the original steps, but they added in the step of sort of let go and let God, right? To surrender your problem and challenge to God. And the reason why they did that was because, you know, people that had a strong sense of self, if you have a strong sense of self, you might be able to use that as a force for good to get out, to remove the tendency of alcoholism, right? But on the same token, if you've got a tremendous strong sense of self and you realize that there's been all of this damage and destruction because of your own making, right? If you take full responsibility for that, there's a lot of shame and guilt that comes along with that. That unless you can release that to God and believe that there was a higher purpose for you in your life beyond your sense of self, it's like it's a double-edged sword. It can be the reason why someone stops drinking, but it can also be the reason why someone wallows in self-pity forever. And so we're going to be able to sort of reconcile between those two different distinctions, right? So having a sense of purpose or a higher calling makes all the difference in the world. Makes all the difference in the world. And so I want you to think about this. When you think about this, when you're working with a client, let's draw a line between these, the elements of the pyramid: capabilities, behavior, environment, below the line, values, beliefs, identity, and vision above the line. Two levels. Above the line, below the line. If you're doing traditional coaching, let's say that I'm working with Antonio. Antonio is wanting to change and transform his physical body. If I'm a traditional coach in the world of health and fitness, what are the things that I might talk to Antonio about in regards to health and fitness if Antonio comes to me and wants to lose some weight? What are some of the common things that we would talk about? Diet, yep. Physical training, yep. Environment, yeah. Exercises, mindset, yeah. Sports, nutrition, willpower, healthy foods, all these things, right? And so these are a reflection of the behaviors: going to the gym, doing the right stuff, eating the right food, meal prepping, etc., checking and counting your calories, and your environment. Physical environment being the gym, emotional environment being your mindset, right? Your ecological environment in terms of what you eat, what's in your house, all those types of things, right? And so effectively we would try to go, hey, it's really heavy on information, and we're sort of hoping that people are compliant and they follow through with the implementation. If I am working as a transformational coach, do I still want to talk to Antonio about diet and food and nutrition and exercise and training? Yes. But I understand that the reason why Antonio's in a place where he might not have the goals that he wants right now, might be carrying more weight than he wants, he might have some difficulties in following through, is likely not because he's never heard of the idea of healthy eating. He's never heard of the idea of health and fitness and going to the gym and training. I would imagine that for most people, they already know those things, right? It's actually pretty difficult not to know the basics, right? But it's probably because of the fact that maybe he doesn't have a strong vision for the future of what his life would look like if he was the best version of himself. Maybe he doesn't already see himself and believe himself to be a healthy person. Maybe health and fitness hasn't been a tremendously high value. Maybe he's had other high values that have been more important in the past. Maybe he's got some beliefs, right? Maybe he grew up with some beliefs in his life that meant that it was difficult for him to follow through, right? Maybe he was in an environment where the people around him didn't model those behaviors to him, and he has some associations to that. Hence, you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. Now, if I only look at the diet, the health, and the exercise, and I'm not addressing those other things, we're only going to get so far. But if I address those other things and I look at that as well, we've got two halves of the same coin. We've got the yin and the yang, we've got the internal and the external, the conscious and the subconscious, and we've got radical transformation that happens from that. And so this is working with the client versus working against the client. Ideally, you want to be in a place where you help the client make these major unlocks so that they self-perpetuate versus creating a sense of dependency. And so to give you an analogy, I want you to imagine that you've got this beautiful tree in your front yard, beautiful apple tree. And you go, hey, I've decided that I would like to have oranges instead. Traditional coaching is the equivalent of just removing all of the apples and just waiting for oranges to grow. Good luck. Transformational coaching is about removing the entire tree, planting an orange tree in its place, and then waiting for oranges to grow. That no amount of willpower is going to allow apples to not grow and oranges to grow, right? Like, it's a different tree. It's a whole different pattern and a different strategy. Genetically, it's a completely different thing. And so what we need to do is make sure we're working at the deeper levels, right? We're working at the deeper levels. And so if we, and Jason does a bit of this anyway with his work in Fit Dads, part of Fit Dads is having a vision for your life of being the fit dad, right? It's having an identity of I'm a fit dad. They talk about the identity of a fit dad versus a fat dad. Different identities, different standards, different values, different belief systems, completely different structures, right? Because that identity shapes and molds everything else. And so can you make a positive change starting at the bottom and working your way up? Yes, but you're going to lose a lot of people along the mountain, right? If you start at the top of the mountain, you work your way down, though, that creates momentum and it cascades. I want you to think about it like a waterfall. If I can help you create an incredible vision for your future, naturally your identity is going to start to shape and mold, and the values and beliefs will adjust, and so will the capabilities, the behaviors and environment. And we know this to be true because if you look at anything in your life that has radically changed your life, I would suggest to you, if you think about it, it changed your life, not because of the event, but because it changed or shifted or altered the vision, identity, values, or beliefs that you held about the world. September 2024. September 24th, 2021, Leila Ray Coyles was born. my first child, my first little girl. And in that moment, everything changed. Anyone that's got children will know exactly what that moment's like. You actually don't realize how significant it is until you look back and you go, wow, fuck, I had no idea what the fuck was going on. But you know, even though you can't fully comprehend, you know that everything is different somehow. Part of the difficulty of having your first child, if you've been through this, you'll appreciate this. If you haven't and you've got this to look forward to, good luck. We were all praying for you. Part of having your first child is that every part of your life pre-children has been built for a life that is now completely different. It's completely different because now you have a child, but it's also completely different because your identity, values, and beliefs and vision has also changed. So things that used to be important now are not important anymore. And things that weren't important are now really fucking important. So you have a child, and by the way, this is not the only thing that can do this for you. There's many great examples like this, but children are a great one to use, which is you have a child and now the vision of your life changes. It's no longer about you, it's about them. You have a shift of vision. You now start thinking much longer term than what you did before because you realize, fuck, I'm responsible for this child for decades now. And so it's not just me anymore. I've got to think about this for years and years and years. But also the vision of your life also changes because you start reflecting much deeper in your life as well, back to when you were a child and what your parents went through. So it's really a bridge from a wisdom perspective between your hopes for the future and also all the things that you went through. You now get to sort of self-audit and reflect your own childhood to better consider how to be a parent, especially if you lean into it, right? Your identity shifts. You go from being whoever the fuck you were before to mum or dad, right? That changes in a major way. It also changes in a major way because you have your own version of what that role was, and that might have been a positive example or a negative example. You might love your dad or mum, or you might not have enjoyed that experience, and so now you've got to grapple with and identify who do I want to be in this new identity, right? Values, the things that were important are not anymore. The things that weren't important now are. Beliefs start to adjust and change because you have these new values. You start to organize and get new information. You're overwhelmed by all this judgment and information as part of that about what you should or shouldn't do. And you've got your parents telling you one thing from 30 years ago, and you've got the new stuff that you're meant to be learning, and you're fucking terrified you're going to kill this kid, right? This is only true, by the way, of your first child. Of the second child, it's like, don't give a fuck. Run around the house full of grapes in your mouth, no problems. You'll be totally fine, right? Right? First child falls down, the whole world is going to end. You feel like it's like Humpty Dumpty and they're going to break into a million pieces like porcelain tiles. And your second child, it's like, oh, they'll be fine. Unless there's bones sticking out, we don't really need to go to the hospital. It'll be all good, right? Like your level of not the fucks that you give, but your level of resilience as a parent changes because you've been through it a bit more. You realize they're actually pretty anti-fragile. Certainly, any parent will tell you this, especially incredible mums. You might not have been ever able to go on as little sleep for as long as you do when you have children until you have children because you're capable of something tremendous. Now, why are you capable of it? Because the stakes are high enough. It's literally somebody's life in your hands, right? So you're capable of unbelievable fucking things. And then behaviors adjust and change. And certainly you have a house around you and you can go, like, when you have children, you realize most people don't have a house built for children, especially young children. Like, you just sharp corners everywhere. I'm not even sure if I knew what a sharp corner was until I had children. And then you're fucking like, oh my God, that everything's at head height. Everything's at head height, right? So everything starts to change. Everything starts to change. And you roll with the punches, right? Life is completely different. And so, by the way, that change happens for the better, but it is a radical, destructive, transformational change, right? And it happens in an instant, but the ripple effects of that volcanic eruption in your life lasts decades and generations. Hence, you're picking up what I'm putting down. Yeah, right? So, do we need to go through the entire birth process in order to change and transform our lives? Fuck no. No, God, no. Well, you can, but I wouldn't, like, that's probably not the journey I would recommend purely for the purpose of self-discovery. You ideally want to have a better purpose than that. But you get the idea. It's like, well, if I'm working with a client, let's take the macro and make it micro. If I'm working with a client and I'm wanting to change and transform their life financially, what's the vision for the future? You'll only actually make enough money to the extent of your vision. I remember doing some work. Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad Poor Dad, he shared something that was pretty outrageous at the time. And I think it was very much deliberately designed to be a bit of rage bait back in the day before that was a thing. But he said that poor people are selfish. I was like, oh, that's a fucking outrageous thing to say. And then he went on to explain that if you're a wealthy person and you've got businesses and you employ people and you're providing livelihoods to multiple people, you're creating such economic abundance that you're sharing that wealth with people and there's enough left over for you. But if you're a poor person and you are barely struggling to make ends meet for yourself, then you're not using all your gifts and talents and abilities to be able to create abundance for other people. And therefore, you're not even doing it for yourself. Now, the judgment obviously aside, you can appreciate the point, right? Jeff Bezos made this great point when he's talking about Amazon. He's worth however many hundreds of billions of dollars, but Amazon as a company is worth, I think, $2 or $3 trillion. So he owns, I think, 20% of Amazon. He's worth $600 billion or whatever it is, but he's created $2.4 trillion of economic value to other people, right? Like he's created so much abundance, he's created that for other people. If he didn't have a vision for what Amazon could be beyond himself, then he would be still operating a single bookstore trying to sell books to people online, right? Hands, you making sense? Yeah. Same is true for your relationship and your family. If you're going to be an incredible leader of your family, you've got to be able to create and craft a vision for them and for you to be able to achieve amazing things together as a family. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to galvanize to get the support that we need for that to be able to happen. It all starts with a vision, whether it be for yourself or for other people, but truly the best vision that you can possibly have is the one that enrolls other people, right? The bigger the vision that you have is, the more people are actually going to come to you. There's a real irony in this, by the way. I want everyone to think about this. The smaller your vision, the harder it is to get help and support. The bigger the vision, the easier it is to get help and support. It's actually easier to do harder and bigger things because more people are willing to help you than it is to do smaller things because often no one else is willing to come to the table because there's not enough in it for them. Right? If my vision at Wild Success was I wanted to change the lives of 1,000 people, wonderful, but you all wouldn't be here because there's not enough in that. But if my vision was I wanted to make a difference in 1 billion people's lives, then I go, I'm forced to think bigger. And how do I enroll people into that vision and share this so we go out there and make a difference together? And hence that vision is the reason why you're all here. Because otherwise I wouldn't act in a way that was, in alignment with that because the vision wouldn't be big enough. And so we've got to think about what is the level that you're playing at, right? What's the level you're playing at? So we've got to think about vision. We've got to then think about what's my identity? Who do I need to become in order to make that vision a reality? Who do I need to become in order to make that vision a reality? And then when I think about that person and I think about that highest, best version of me, the best version of me that could make that vision a reality, what's that person's values and beliefs? What do they value and what do they believe in the world that's different to what I believe currently? He's cooking. Let him cook, right? Think about that distinction though, right? Like right now, whatever you're going on in your life is a reflection of your current vision and your current identity. So if you set a crazy vision for the future and you go, okay, I'm not able to make that happen yet, but I can get there. So who do I need to become in order to be able to make that happen? That person's got different values and different beliefs. They're capable of new things. They've got different skills, different behaviors. Their environment is different, both internal and external. And then let me chart a course between one to the other. How do I make more of those things a reality for me versus what I currently have? You guys picking up what I'm putting down? So if you want to make the biggest difference with your clients, get paid the most money, have that impact last the longest, be able to move the needle for people in an amazing way, it's all about, write this down, leverage. It's all about leverage. Agamemnon once said, give me a lever strong enough and I can move the world. Give me a lever strong enough and I can move the world. It's all about leverage. Your job as a coach is to identify what is leverage for this person. What makes this person tick? How do I get leverage with this person to allow them to become all that they were born to be? Right? And how do you leverage that? You leverage it based on vision, identity, values, and beliefs. Tap into those things and you will allow somebody to move mountains. It was actually funny. I was listening to a story yesterday on the drive back. We had to drive 4.5 hours from Uluru to Alice Springs in the middle of the desert to get on a plane to come home. And I did the trip in like 3 hours, right? I was motivated to get home. And on the road, I was listening to an interview of Tony Robbins, and he shared this funny fucking story. I was like, fuck, this is actually so good, right? By finding what makes people tick. He was doing this session with this woman, And this woman was dealing with tremendous stress and like a lot of disease, and she had a young child. And so he was trying to create this breakthrough for this person. This is a live event. He's trying to create this breakthrough, and he's trying to coach this person. He's saying, hey, you know, if you don't make a change, how long do you think you're going to live? And she's like, probably till 35. She was 32. And he's saying, well, if this woman thinks she's only got 3 years to live, that's going to be enough. And she still couldn't make the change. He's like, okay, fuck. Okay, well, let me try something else. He's like, you've got a daughter. Yeah. How do you think your daughter's going to be when she sees her mum? Daughter was 4. She sees her mum on a video 3 years before she died, and she never made these changes in her life because she was too stubborn. You know, how would she feel knowing that her mum could have made a change and she'd still be here, but now she's not because her mum refused to make the change? She goes, yep, I get it, but I still can't make the change, right? It's like, fuck, okay, maybe she's not going to get there. And then this woman happened to be a vegan, and she says, well, what would it be like? What would it be like is if after you've died, your husband remarries, and the woman he remarries is a meat eater. She starts feeding your daughter steak. And she's like, there's no way that's going to fucking happen. Then she made a change, right? For her, it wasn't about death. It wasn't about letting a kid down. It was the idea that the next woman in her partner's life might eat meat and her daughter might start eating meat. That was a strong enough reason to get that change. For me, I think that's fucking radical. The fact that you wouldn't change for yourself or for your children, but the idea of the like, okay, but hey, that's what got value. That's what got leverage. But it was, okay, cool. Vision wasn't enough. Identity wasn't enough, but values, the value of veganism for her and of living in alignment with harmony of the like fucking animals, that was enough to get leverage to make all the change. She's still here today because of that. You just got to find the thing that makes somebody tick. You're going to find the thing that makes somebody tick. Making sense, guys? Yep. Start at the top of the pyramid. That's the shortcut. Okay. How do you explain this entire call in one line? Start at the top of the pyramid. Okay, you don't even need to watch the whole call. Just get that one bit. The whole world will change for you as part of that. Now, how do we go about changing that? Well, one is understanding intentionality. Let's work at the top of the pyramid. But there's also that you need different tools in order to be able to make that happen. And so if you imagine that there is the SOAR model, situation, objective, any challenges, recommendation, the next level beyond that is what we call the model of accelerated change and transformation, 7 steps, which is where if you're going to do a major breakthrough into somebody's life, this is what you would learn how to be able to do. It starts, as we've already said, with getting leverage, gathering information. We call a detailed personal history. Take a deep dive into somebody's psychology and background and family lineage. We would start to expand possibilities, do the change work, then clean up, link to the future, and create a supportive environment. This is the framework that would allow you to make the biggest possible impact into somebody's life. If you do that in an amazing way, you're going to have an amazing impact in their lives. Is this making sense for everybody? Fantastic. Great. So there's a lot in all of that. I'm aware of time as well, so I'll let you guys go through the rest of it in the days to come via the online materials and the replays. Now, we've got a massive session coming up for you in the Q&A. A massive session coming up in the Q&A. Please bring any questions you've got with regards to this session to the table as well. We'll go through that as well. But let's just take a step back and review today's session. If you're wanting to make a difference in somebody's life, what we've got to do is ensure that not only do we have the right tools, but also they're working at the right level. And the secret here is we've got to work underneath the surface. We've got to work on the drivers, the subconscious drivers of human behaviors. And the way to do that is by working on their vision, their identity, their values and beliefs. If you change those 4 things, any of those 4 things, then you will naturally by default change their environment, their capabilities, their behavior. Yeah. And if you think about an area of your life right now that's not working, any area at all, just post up the area into the chat. Any area at all. Money, marriage, work, career, finances, relationships, money, finance, yeah, environment, fitness, energy, relationships. Okay, I promise you is that if you look at any area of your life, you all have a high level of self-awareness, so this will be easy for you, but it's not as easy for your current clients, so just keep that in mind. But I promise you, if you take any area, let's look at work as an example, there will be an external reference of the reason why work is not working the way you want it to. It might be environmental. I'm not in the right organization. I might not have the right people around me. It might be behavioral. I'm not showing up in the way that I need to. I'm not playing all out. It might be capabilities. I don't have the skills or the tools or the strategies. There'll be something external that's the reason why you're not fully going after your career and growing your career, right? Hands if you can appreciate that. There'll be something externally is the reason why you're not winning. But also, you all have this awareness. I promise you, there's also something subconscious. There's also something internal. It might be that you lack really a compelling vision. It might be that your values are out of alignment, or it might be that there's some sort of an identity block, or it might be a belief block. And so typically there's two. There's the internal and the external. And if you only solve the external, that might give you a short-term win, but then the long-term is going to manifest in a different way. If we work on the internal, though, the external will take care of itself. The external will take care of itself. So much of the external reality is because it's effectively the bubbling up of our internal issues, right? It was, I don't think it was Carl Jung. I think it was somebody else, but I'm going to say it was Carl Jung anyway. He said, we walk around projecting onto the world around us our unresolved subconscious issues, our internal blocks and barriers, right? That's why we say we don't see the world as it is, you see the world as you are. When you're not getting the promotion at work and you're not getting that opportunity, it's a reflection of what you believe about yourself that's showing that to you. Yeah, like, because if you were fully in alignment around that, then you would either not worry about that, or you would find a way to turn that around, or you'd be getting the opportunity. Like, whatever you resist persists. Now, I'm not talking about random moments in life. Who's had a moment in life that was random and it was just unfortunate and just shit happened? Who's had moments like that? Of course you fucking have. I'm talking about the consistencies, right? When you look back on your life, you go, oh, I get it. This is a bit of a theme and a pattern. And I don't know why that's happening, but it just seems to be happening as a bit of a theme and a pattern. I just keep getting turned over for these opportunities. I keep missing out on these moments. I keep not following through in this area. I keep finding a great partner, but then there's something about it that just doesn't work. Like, what's the consistency? What's the consistency and the inconsistency? And when you start to pattern recognize, you realize, oh, wow, I get it. These little distinctions and shifts can make a big difference for me when I go deep versus looking at the external, look at the internal. Making sense? Amazing. Now, of course, in the next level of this training together in the Masters, this is what we're looking at. Because you can have all of the surface level information, and that's great. You can make some good money and change some lives of that. But if you really want to make a difference in people's lives, you're going to be able to go deep. To the capacity that you can go deep makes all the difference in the world. Amazing. Okay, team. So we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Appreciate you all immensely. Hope you had an amazing call. Hope you got some incredible value today as well. Love and appreciate you all. On Wednesday night, we're going to come here for a Q&A. Bring all your questions to the table. The good, the bad, the ugly, the wild, and the wicked. Anything is on the table. Love to take you through all of them. And we'll go through and help you unpack all of them, which is going to be a heap of fun. Can't wait for that session. So come early, come prepped, ready to rock, and we will have a heap bit of fun together as part of that. I will see you on the call on Wednesday. Here's what I'm going to do, team. For those of you who have any questions or would like to explore a little bit more about the Masters, the next level, I'm going to just take a moment now. I've just run out of water. I'm going to quickly grab a drink of water. I'm going to come back. We'll end the call here for everybody. But if you would like to explore Masters with us and have a bit of a dialogue, and I can answer some of the questions you've got, you're welcome to hang around. I'll spend maybe another 10, 15,